Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zack, and today I am driving a 2006 GMC Envoy Denali. Up front is a 5.3 liter V8, and down below is a 4-speed automatic transmission. Now, I am super excited to be driving this Envoy for two reasons. First of all, the only Envoy we've driven here on the channel was the Envoy XUV, which was a very strange pickup truck converting vehicle that didn't really sell all that well and broke all the time. So we're doing another Envoy, but more specifically, this is the Envoy Denali, meaning it was the highest trim level offered back in 2006. It retailed for $40,000. We do have the window sticker here today, and so we're going to be taking a look at what a top-of-the-line Envoy looks like over 20 years ago. But if you'd like to submit your own vehicle and have it reviewed here on the channel, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. And if you'd like to see all my videos weeks or sometimes months in advance, you can head on over to my Patreon for only $5 a month. But let's get back to that 5.3 liter V8. Well, that is shared with a lot of trucks and GM products of the era. The Tahoe had it, the Silverado had it, and of course the Trailblazer had it. This is the GMT 360 platform, which was a little bit smaller than the Tahoes and Suburbans and things like that. At the time, they were on the GMT 800 platform, but this was shared with vehicles like the Chevy Trailblazer, the Buick Rainier, and the Saab 9-7. It's a solid enough engine. This one does have a little bit of an exhaust leak, as you heard at the beginning, but nothing new there. Like I said, paired to it is a 4-speed automatic. Pretty much everything from GM had a 4-speed auto in this time, and the Envoy is no different. Last but not least, this particular Envoy is 4-wheel drive, and we'll talk about how to select that a little bit later on. How does it feel to drive the Envoy Denali? It's nice. It does have air suspension in the back, the auto leveling suspension. It's a nice enough drive. Obviously, time hasn't been super kind to this particular example, but this was pretty luxury back in the day. Visibility is relatively good. You do have somewhat thick A-pillars, but not the thickest I've ever seen. Ride quality's okay, but again, it's 20 years old, so I can't expect the world from it. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have 6 gauges. Off to the left is the tachometer, in the center is the speedometer, but then I have oil pressure, battery voltage, fuel, and coolant temperature. On the steering wheel, we have buttons for source, voice commands, program, information, trip information, seek, volume, more information, and our back button. So those lower information buttons will change what the green readout at the bottom of the gauge cluster says. GM was very good about giving you a bunch of options in this era, and the Envoy is no different. Off to the left, we do have a climate control vent, headlight switch, headlight washer, very cool to see that, fog light switch, dome light, and gauge dimmer switch. And moving on to the door, we have our power mirror adjustments, power windows, power locks, heated seats, and memory seats found on the driver's door. Moving into the center, we get 2 climate control vents, and we get our touchscreen radio. This originally was a $1,600 option for the navigation radio. It is very outdated. It is not modern in feeling, look, or usage. It is very old and hard to use today, and it operates off of a CD. So if you want to listen to a CD and navigate somewhere, you can't. You gotta choose one or the other. Down below that, we do have our climate controls. Dual zone climate. Very nice to see here in 2006, and we get a nice little digital readout. We do have our 4-wheel drive settings to the bottom left, so we have 2 high auto, 4 high, and 4 low. We have a 12-volt outlet and our rear wiper switch. And then we get another 12-volt outlet, some cubby space, and a cup holder, the shifter and handbrake off to the right, and then we get another cup holder. So we will do a big friggin' bottle test here in the GMC Envoy, and when you remove the liner, it does in fact pass the big friggin' bottle test. Then we get a center console with CD holders, and the seats are heated, they are memory, they are comfortable. GM knows what to do when building a seat, and they are very good at it, so I'm happy to see that here in the Envoy. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 2006 GMC Envoy Denali, and a couple of things to note. First of all, this does have the rear seat infotainment or entertainment option, which is a DVD player and a screen, as well as you have plugins. So the owner was actually playing Grand Theft Auto San Andreas on the screen back here off of a PlayStation 2 last night. Very, very cool to see that. I fit great, knee room, wonderful, headroom, wonderful, and there is no third row in this particular one. At the time, you could get the Envoy XL, which would have been a little bit longer. They don't drive as nice because they didn't change the suspension geometry, even though they made it longer, and that would have a third row. This does not, and I don't believe you can get a Denali in the Envoy XL, but I could be wrong on that. Down below, we have two climate vents, we have headphone inputs, we have our own climate controls, we have a 12-volt outlet, and we have flip-out cup holders. So anything you could really want, you can find back here in the Envoy Denali. The biggest thing is the size. This is very, very comfortable, and we have tons of cargo space, which we'll talk about here in a second, but very, very nice to see all of this. Let's hop into the very back. All right, around the back of the Envoy Denali. Pull this, actually, before we pull this up, you can click this button here and raise the back glass. Absolutely love when vehicles have this feature. I believe every vehicle should have this feature, and the Envoy is no different. But pull it up from here. We have the big rear tailgate, and then here we go. This is tons and tons of storage. These are the original headphones for that rear seat entertainment system. We do have a rear cargo container as well. Very, very cool and very nice to see that. Not super useful, but nice. But the creme de la creme, the main attraction back here, is the air compressor. So you can actually inflate tires, inflate inflatable mattresses, whatever you want with a inflator back here. This is the air compressor that runs the rear air suspension. It has auto leveling suspension, but you could also tap into it for your own uses. That is really cool. GM did this throughout this era and actually throughout the 90s as well. Even the minivans had the option for that. The Pontiac Montana SV6 had an option for that, so really, really cool. There it is. That is the rear trunk space of the GMC Envoy Denali. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and I don't overly love the outside of the Envoy. It does have a lot of nostalgia for me. It is a little bit of macaroni styling. I grew up around these. My parents test drove overnight one time a Trailblazer. They were between a Pacifica, Trailblazer, and a Nissan Quest. They ended up buying the Pacifica, but we did do an extended test drive of a Trailblazer of this vintage, and I remember seeing it at our house and thinking, wow, this is what my life is gonna be like. Little did I know it would actually be a black Envoy Denali in Detroit rather than a tan Trailblazer back home in Chicago. With all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving the Envoy Denali from 2006? Well, I have to say I am thoroughly impressed with some of the options and how luxurious this thing actually is. It kind of is a baby Escalade. I mean, very slightly and very, very heavy on the kind of. I love the rear seat entertainment. I love the $1,600 navigation, the heated seats, the memory seats, the air compressor in the trunk, all of this together, like, this is a pretty nice and pretty complete package. I think the other thing, however, like really truly, my final thoughts on this is that this platform, the GMT 360, really feels very homey. It feels comfortable because it is comfortable. It feels nostalgic because I grew up in this era. And it's just very welcoming and very inviting. All of the wood paneling, whether it be fake or not in here, is very warm. The seats, you sink right into them. That 5.3 plays a very, very familiar tune that I've heard a million times and will hear 1.5 million more. It's just welcoming. And I don't feel that way about current GM products. Now, I'm fully aware that 90% of that is just my nostalgia speaking. But I have to say also, their cars these days just aren't as inviting. They're not as warm. They're not as friendly. They feel more like adversaries than best buds. I put it in reverse and the passenger side mirror tried its best to tilt down, but I think it's a little broken. It was kind of It's okay, buddy. You're trying your best. Ooh. Going up ain't prettier. All right, now it's lost. It's going up and down. While I'm going to end the video today here, I know it's only a matter of time before I see my old friend, the GMT 360 again. Whether it be with a Buick badge or a Chevy badge or a Saab badge, I know I'll run into him again. Maybe on the street, maybe at an ice cream shop, maybe at a high school reunion. But this is one of those cars that I'm always going to find my way back to, whether it be down the street or across the country. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Spencer for letting me borrow his GMT 360 for today's video. Spencer is a very good friend of mine. I've reviewed several of his vehicles. Throughout the ages, he always has something interesting, unique, and special, and this is his pick of the day. He actually bought this yesterday as of the recording of this video. I just happened to be up here in Detroit when he did so, which was very, very cool. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.